It's time for Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny. From what's happening on the blue at Boise State to the Mountain West and beyond. The biggest storylines, the best guests, and most outlandish opinions from two dudes who eat, sleep, and breathe college football. Today's broadcast is coming from the Cutwater Spirits Canned Cocktail Studios. Check out one of their more than 30 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails at your local gas station or grocery store. Cutwater Canned Cocktails is perfect for your next game day tailgate party. Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny, featuring former Boise State quarterback and longtime coach Mike Sanford and KTIK 95.3 FM The Ticket's Johnny Mallory on Bronco Nation News.
What is going on, Bronco Nation? And for the final time, welcome to Ball Talk Season 1, Episode 18. This is going to do it. This is going to be a wrap. So we're going to come at you really hard. John Mallory, Mike Sanford, Coach, I hope you had a wonderful holiday season. It's weird, man. We usually text every single day. You must have had a very busy holiday season, Coach. I haven't heard from you in like a week. What's going on, Sandman?
Hey, I missed you, man. I've missed you. Can you believe this is episode 18? We've been out here grinding. Out here, 1,200 miles apart. This has been such a fun season. Look forward to season 2.
Hell yeah, man.
If you and BJ will have me back, man, I'm absolutely all in on season 2. Had an awesome holiday season, a lot of driving. I drove a total of 40 some odd hours. Got a wife, 3 kids, and a dog, and drove out to the Bay Area for some Christmas time, and made it back in time, just enough for an awesome weekend of pro football, and then an unbelievable CFP semifinal date. So I'm really excited to jump into some really interesting happenings here at Boise State. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, and just quickly, Ball Talk Season 1, Episode 18, we hope we wanted you to learn, we wanted you to laugh, we wanted you to love football, and hopefully we got that job done, but we're going to finish strong tonight. Get the comments in the comments section, and hopefully we can go on maybe an extended version of mailbag. So get those questions in for Coach Sanford and myself, and we'll do our best to oblige and get that thing going. But the first thing we're starting off with tonight, Coach Sanford, is Malachi Nelson, the 5-star, according to ESPN rankings, the number 1 high school football player in the class of 2023, sat the bench, redshirted at USC this year. He's been in the portal for a couple of weeks. I think as we sit right now, he is in Boise getting ready for an official visit this weekend. What do you know? You've been in the game a long time. You know high school kids. You study, you scout. Malachi Nelson, who the hell is this guy?
Well, first off, Malachi Nelson, he comes from a very distinguished high school football program that I also came from, the Los Alamitos High School Griffins. In fact, my youngest child is named Griffin after the Los Alamitos High School Griffins. I didn't fill in Anne-Marie with that little detail when I suggested the name. It was more, we named our oldest boy Gunner, 2 G's, Griffin. What a great name.
Yeah.
Sounds very, kind of millennial, Gen Z. We're in a good spot there, but it was because of the Los Alamitos Griffins. Malachi Nelson's a real one. He's a big time talent. I've had a chance to be around that program quite a bit through the course of recruiting over the last 4 years. He's a player that I heard a lot about his freshman year, sophomore year, had tremendous growth potential. He's got great length. I think his big skill set is his downfield passing. I went back and watched all of his huddle highlights today. And, what you notice when you watch Malachi Nelson is his high school film is that the ball just effortlessly jumps out of his hand. He can make all the throws down the field. He's got a ton of field vision. He can make the second play. He's more than capable runner, but I think you're getting somebody that's more of a gifted passer, and that's what he's really known as, than just a tremendous athlete that is going to have to learn to throw the football. Malachi Nelson clearly comes with unbelievable expectations to Boise State if he does indeed sign with the Broncos in the portal. Because of his recruiting ranking. He was in a program, Los Alamitos, that has just stockpiled wide receiver talent over the last 4 years, running back talent. So he was surrounded with a full deck, and that entire skill position group at Los Alamitos over the last 2-3 years that Malachi Nelson was throwing the ball to is playing all over Power 5 football. Malachi Nelson, I can't believe we're talking about it, but nothing surprises me, and I think he's a tremendous talent.
What's it say about Boise State? Coach, these kids, even the drop downs, the 5 stars, they ain't looking at G5 programs in most cases. Spencer Danielson, Bush Hamden, it's been documented. Bush has known this kid since he was a 7th grader when Bush was in Seattle and had a kind of an eye on him. I don't know how you coaches keep peaks on middle school kids, but sometimes you do, and you say, hey, keep tabs on that kid for whatever reason. What does it say about Boise State that, I don't don't know if it's a long shot that they're going to get this kid. It probably is. This kid's probably going to want more. This kid's probably, he's not going to want more than just the scholarship and an opportunity to play at Boise State. I don't know if Boise State can, or what kind of package they can put together, but again, my question, long way to say, what the hell does this say about Boise State that they're even in the mix for this kid?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Boise State's a program that has had, it's been synonymous with offensive success. It's been synonymous with this quote that I thought came out, with sources from the Malachi Nelson camp said he was looking for a blue collar program. There isn't a program across college football that I think has trademarked that phrase like Boise State has. And, Malachi Nelson came with a lot of recruiting theatrics. There was a lot going on in the acquisition of Malachi Nelson to USC. Frankly, he found himself buried obviously behind Caleb Williams, but there's another player that we all had a chance to see play against Louisville in the Holiday Bowl, Miller Moss. This guy can flat out play football. Miller Moss, I think, has established himself as the clear-cut starter, at least in my opinion, at USC. So Malachi Nelson probably doesn't want to sit for another 2 years, but he also probably wants to get away from all the distractions, all the shenanigans that come along with all the NIL money. He just wants to go play football. He wants to be developed.
Okay.
From what I hear, I think that his experience in recruiting, and let's just call it like it is, Johnny, he was coddled. He was coddled in recruiting. He was told he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then all of a sudden you go to USC and you're like, oh, wait, I'm the 3rd or 4th string quarterback. Huh. This is weird. You
see this through kids too, I'm sure, every day in practice, huh?
100%. I think it just shows that he has some really good guidance around him, whether it be his high school program, whether it be the director of recruiting at Los Alamitos High School that I know very well, but some very good guidance that, hey, man, your best bet to go play in the National Football League is to just go to a program where you can focus on the main thing and keep the main thing, which is being a really good quarterback, being surrounded by like-minded individuals that want to just compete, get better every day, and not worry about being on the next Wendy's commercial. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see if indeed that Malachi Nelson does end up becoming a Boise State Bronco.
It's interesting, too, because you use the Wendy's commercial. I'll throw in Dr. Pepper, too, for Caleb Williams. And that's a hell of a pitch, I'm sure, to sliced bread. We'll just call Malachi that. When you're coming out of high school and you can sell the fact that USC, you get the chips and dip commercials, you get the national spots, there's the car that Caleb Williams is driving, you'll get that in red if you want it. That's got to be obviously super enticing to a 17, 18-year-old kid. And then you get there, like you said, and your hopes and dreams are kind of put on pause as other people are just better than you. And you want to go somewhere else and play and develop. You got to have a good head on your shoulders, I think, to eat that humble pie at that age. You know how it is with stars and recruiting and huddle and the transfer portal. It's almost like, how much can you give me? These guys compete with each other on that for NIL stuff. And Boise State, and as a G5 program, maybe, doesn't get in a lot of the conversations for some of these kids. But this kid, like you said, he wants to do blue collar. Maybe Boise State's the right fit. I know some publications say this is going to happen. Spencer Danielson is going to get this thing done. If it does, what does that do to Boise State branding? What's the national story Coach Sanford, what are your coaches and what are your buddies in coaching in the country going to text you with if this happens and Boise State gets this kid?
Well, ironically, it's more the media types that have been texting me about this than coaches. Because I think that, I'll throw myself in the ring there. We love the storylines, right? And this is a massive storyline, not just for Boise State, but it's a massive storyline across the landscape of college football for media types. But I think coaches that are in the know that, Malachi Nelson is probably best suited going to a place where he can develop, where he can play. And that's a place like Boise State. And, the brand of Boise State is so strong in the state of California because of just the success that so many Southern California athletes have had at Boise State. I mean, even Los Alamitos, Quentin Jones, Orlando Scandrick. And
wow.
I'll omit myself because I wasn't necessarily an on-the-field success story. But myself, those are 3 Boise State Broncos from that high school in Los Alamitos, which is a bordering city of Long Beach, California, and just on the very northern tip of Orange County. I love the place, a very diverse area. You've got a lot of different types of people. It's not that Newport Beach, Coda de Casa type vibe. It's not Real Housewives of Newport or Orange County. It's a real place, man. It's a blue collar place. With a lot of hardworking people. And I love calling that my hometown and a place that for me as a high school athlete and as a youngster when my dad was coaching at USC. So I think that would be a tremendous fit. I don't think it's be surprising one bit to any coaches in the industry because let's just call it like it is. Everybody in the portal, that are at the Power 5 level, the established elite level, what do they want? They want proven game tape in college quarterbacks. That's what it is. And Malachi Nelson is not that. He's a 5-star, but if you're thinking about like University of Miami doesn't want to wait and develop. Mario Cristobal can't wait and develop a quarterback. He'll be done. He'll get fired. That's the reality of everybody's situation at the Power 5 level is that you want to go out and get, whether it be the best FCS quarterback or a group of 5 player, Caden Salter, at Liberty, like that dude's a straight baller and he did it on tape. He did it throughout the course of a season. If you haven't played meaningful snaps in the Division I, Power 5, Group of 5, or even FCS level at a very elite level, you don't have a whole lot of value, relative to guaranteeing a starting spot at your next spot. And that's what I think is happening here where Malachi Nelson, it's more about the talent. It's about what he did in the high school level, but there are unknowns relative to the college game. And that's why I think it's a great move for Boise State, but with it is going to come another side of it. Massive expectations. Tremendous expectations. We're not talking about it. I remember when I was playing at Boise State and there was like a 3-star and everybody like, whoa, who's that guy? We're talking about the number one player in the class of
2023.
23, that's a year ago. It's
a couple days ago, Coach. Yeah, 2023, that was last week.
The expectations that would come along with it, I think that's one piece of it. And then the other piece of it too, Johnny, that I think is relevant is, do you think CJ Tiller's in his class?
Yes, he is.
CJ Tiller's just going to want to ride it out with Malachi Nelson coming in? Probably not. Boise State fans could be like, oh, cool. Hey, you can go CJ Tiller. All right. You played one game. It is what it is. And that's fine. But even Maddox Madsen, is Maddox Madsen going to be like, I'm good with this. I'm going to compete. He might, but he also might not. And that is the great unknown of the 2024 landscape of college football with the portal and particularly at the quarterback position. You make moves like this, you might have a pretty empty room relative to the quarterback position.
And for everybody, I get it. Yeah, not all 5-stars end up playing like 5-stars. Some of them play like 2-stars. Some of them do nothing. But if I'm going to take a chance on a kid from the portal, I'd rather mess up or not be able to, not be able to build up the 5-star than not be able to develop the 3-star. That's the guy I would want to take a chance on. This guy had offers. He could have picked his place last year, Coach. Georgia, Alabama, wherever he wanted to go, he could have went. Now he's in Boise as we speak. And Malachi Nelson could become the next Bronco and a hit in the transfer portal. And then all those storylines that you just discussed can happen. Your mic drop tonight. Coach Sanford, you guys, is going to give us his pitch if he was in Boise State, if he's Spencer Danielson, if he is Bush Hamden, and you get Team Nelson in the Blaymire, what are you going to say to keep him? What are you going to say to get him to sign? We're going to do our mic drop in 90 seconds.
All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Cutwater Spirits Canned Cocktail Studios. Check out one of their more than 30 flavors of premix premium cocktails at your local gas station or grocery store. Cutwater Spirits, perfect for your next game day tailgate party. Our title sponsor is rowpaint.com. For all your commercial, industrial, residential painting needs, check out rowpaint.com. Don't forget about their concrete coatings. Transform that ugly concrete slab on your back patio in your garage in just one day. Contact rowpaint.com for a free estimate today. The official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics and our title sponsor at Bronco Nation News is rowpaint.com. Idaho Central Credit Union's been helping members achieve financial success for more than 80 years. There's an ICCU branch on almost every corner, but the closest is in your pocket with free eBranch mobile and online banking. See why more than 500,000 members love ICCU and join 1 in 4 Idahoans by making the switch today at ICCU.com. Since 1984, Ridley's Family Markets has prided itself on being a hometown food and drug store that employed value members of the local community. Ridley's Family Markets has 13 locations in the state of Idaho and many more in the surrounding states. Download the new Ridley's app to your smartphone, get savings up to 40% off at the checkout line, and find a location near you at shopridleys.com. Former Bronco Matt Bauscher is once again the number 1 ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley. No home is too big or too small for Matt and his team. Let them fulfill all your real estate needs at BauscherRealEstate.com.
Tail Studio. It's Sanford and Johnny Ball Talk, final episode of the season, which means the final mic drop of the season. This is, of course, the Bronco Brew Coffee mic drop. Take it away, Coach.
Well, first off, if you haven't ordered your Bronco Brew Coffee or gotten your subscription to support Boise State NIL initiatives, do so right now. I, unfortunately, because of all the travel over the last 3 weeks, I had to pause my subscription because I had about 7 bags of fresh, elite Bronco Brew coffee. But I'm going to resume my bags coming in, and they make tremendous Christmas gifts with the branding and all the packaging, and not only that, but the great coffee. So subscribe to Bronco Brew Coffee and support Boise State, all athletes in all sports. And then you can also pick who you do choose to support. Get your Bronco Brew Coffee subscription dialed up. We're here with the mic drop, the final mic drop, Johnny Ballgame, the final mic drop. And I'm talking to you, Malachi Nelson. Yeah, you're listening, aren't you? You're listening right now live. You got your little device. You're probably, you're taxiing into the Boise airport. And this is what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you first from a football perspective, also from a business perspective. This is a tremendous fit, Malachi. You're going to be around a head coach that is truly caring. Spencer Danielson cares about his players. Watch how his entire roster responded to him at Boise State over the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. It's real. Second off, you have a quarterback coach that knows this place inside and out. He's coached at the highest level in Bush Hamden. He can develop you. He's been recruiting you since you were in middle school. He knows who you are. You guys have a relationship. That's a real thing. Lastly, I think you got the most important player in all of Group of 5 football who's going to be standing to your right or to your left on game day, and that's Ashton Jeanty. The combination of Malachi Nelson, you, and Ashton Jeanty, who I believe is the best running back in all of college football, not Group of 5, all of college football. And yeah, I'm talking to you, Blake Corum. I am. Yeah, you heard me. You're going to have him right next to you. And so you're not going to go have to win every single game on your own. You're going to have the opportunity to just have a nice runway into your college football career here in Boise, Idaho. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the place of Boise, Idaho. I'm going to talk to you about the school, Boise State, and I'm going to talk to you about what this place meant to me. Malachi, you might not know this about me, but I, just like you, I donned the Los Alamitos number 2, the Griffins right there. In fact, yes. I actually named my son after our mascot at the Los Alamitos High School Griffins. Dude. That's the jersey that I wore in the season of 1999, a season that finished in CIF semifinals against Long Beach Poly, where a young sophomore quarterback named Mercedes Lewis 6'8", playing quarterback.
Whoa.
He got the better hand. He got the better hand in the game. But that's okay. He was surrounded by a bunch of first round draft picks. But I traded in this helmet, Malachi. Okay, that Los Alamitos, that beautiful helmet, the red, white, and blue of Los Alamitos. I traded in that helmet for this helmet. Boise State Broncos. I've been in your shoes. I know exactly what you're going through. I've come from Southern California into Boise, Idaho. And I'm going to tell you this, putting on this jersey right here, they're a lot cooler nowadays, Malachi. But putting this jersey on and running out onto that blue field with the best fans in all of college football, it means something. And it means more than you even felt when you were at the LA Memorial Coliseum. Malachi, I know SC. My parents both graduated from SC. My dad played quarterback at USC, one of the top-rated quarterbacks in 1972 out of Los Altos, not Los Alamitos, Los Altos High School in Northern California. And he went to USC. He was the receiver coach at USC for the entirety of my childhood until I was a freshman at Los Alamitos High School. And going to Boise, Idaho, and having my world expand and my eyes opened up to what is out there beyond just the little bubble that we lived in Southern California was the best thing that ever happened to me. Why? I got to meet all kinds of unbelievable people, down-to-earth, blue-collar people that have your best interest in mind. Boise, Idaho changed my life. Changed my life as a player from 2000 to 2004 as a quarterback. I was around quarterback coaches like Mark Helfrich, Dirk Cutter, and Chris Petersen. Why is that important to you, Malachi? Well, because those three guys, they went to a place called Boise State for a reason. And that tradition is not only, it's not dropped off, it's only gotten stronger. You're going to be coached by people like that in your career at Boise State. You're going to be cared for by a fan base, a community that's going to wrap their arms around you. They're going to root for you. They're going to cheer for you. They're going to have your back unconditionally. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to continue to show up. And that's what Boise State fans do. But most importantly, what's really special about Boise State, it's not the coaches, not the uniforms. It's not the blue turf. It's not even the Bronco that runs out before the game. It's that locker room. It's the brotherhood. And it's a real brotherhood. And why it's so unique, Malachi, is because that brotherhood has never been broken up. There are coaches in that staff that you're going to play for that I played with. There are going to be coaches on that staff that I coached in 2014. See Matt Miller. This is a brotherhood that means something. And it's a program that's protected, and it's been protected over the course of the last 25, 30 years since I had a chance to don that great uniform. So, Malachi, I say this to you. That helmet right there, I know there's one in between, a USC Trojan helmet. Replace it with this helmet right here. Be a Bronco, change your life, go light up that blue turf, and have the best time of your life, and you will have the greatest experience because of the brothers you're going to be going to war with every single Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night, or whenever ESPN tells you you're going to play. Malachi, can't wait to see you on the blue. It's going to be a heck of a ride.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, your final mic drop brought to you by Bronco Brew Coffee of the season. You must have been a decent recruiter, Coach. I want to play for you now. BJ will cut that video up. That will be all over social media. And hopefully Malachi Nelson is able to check that out. Is he going to do you think, I mean, can you sell him on what you sold him? Does he need, I mean, if he wants a car, that's okay. Does he want anything? How much do you think Boise State is willing to give a kid who's never played a snap for you? Do you think that's in play? Are they not? Are they the type of program that says,
I think it'll be in play, but I think the fact that at least to the best of my knowledge, his first official visit, at least post January 1, because the recruiting calendar literally is opening up as we speak for official visits. But I think the fact that he is choosing to visit a Group of 5 school, it shows what his heart, what his mind, and what he wants isn't just the flashy, shiny object. He wants something unique. He wants something special. And I think just him physically being there, it shows that there's something about Boise State. There's something about what happened to him at SC, what happened to him in the recruiting process, probably some shenanigans, right? Probably some truths or some non-truths that were promised to him that didn't come to fruition.
Sure.
That kind of stuff happens all the time, especially if you're not the starting quarterback. I think he's going to Boise State on this official visit because of something special. I do think Boise State, because this is completely uncharted territory in any sport, at Boise State, to have a number one ranked athlete in a sport that has, I don't know, 130 teams, 132 teams times 85 scholarship athletes. That's a lot of humans that are on Division I scholarships.
Right.
And the guy that was the number one athlete in football a year ago is going to Boise State. I'm assuming there's going to be some pretty good little incentives to go to Boise State.
How much do you sell Jeanty? I mean, you mentioned that, and I was glad
you heard me, man. You heard myself.
I would sell the hell out of Jeanty to this Malachi Nelson. A quarterback's best friend is a running game, right? I mean, that is the greatest partner a quarterback can have, is an elite level running back. He'll have the best seat in the house. He's looking at 2nd and 4 all damn season. He's looking at what box guy. I mean, you tell the listeners more than I would, but I mean, when you have a running back like Jeanty, I mean, that's going to open up a lot in Bush's passing schemes, huh?
Yeah, and I think that
is that part of the sell?
Well, of course it's part of the sell, but the thing is when you're a college athlete at a different school, you're not sitting there watching Boise State football because you don't have the time. You don't have so he doesn't probably know necessarily the extent of Ashton Jeanty that we know. So I think there's two things that you have to do. And most importantly, as a coach, when you have a great player that also happens to be an unbelievable human being, which is exactly what Ashton Jeanty is strategically, you don't just sit there and just say, oh, Ashton Jeanty is going to be awesome for you, blah, blah, blah. You don't just keep saying the word Ashton Jeanty or the words Ashton Jeanty to the recruit. You actually have Ashton Jeanty host the recruit and be his host on the official visit.
You do that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, that's exactly what you do. And honestly, like, coaches are really good recruiters, but way better recruiters are the players on your roster. That's why I finished up my segment. That would be exactly what I would have done when I was talking to a recruit, and I would have built up to that. It wouldn't have been a mic drop with a sponsorship by Bronco Brew Coffee. I mean, it would have been more like a build up over the course of 4-6 weeks of communicating, or however long you've been talking. But I would build it up and leave it as the exclamation point isn't me. It's not the city. It's not the NIL deal. It's your teammates. And guess who the teammate that you are going to be hanging out with this entire weekend? It's the guy that's the best returning running back in college football. Hey,
surefire NFL kid.
Yeah,
surefire.
No question. And not just an NFL player, but going to be an NFL starter. I mean, there's no doubt about that. There's no question that Ashton Jeanty is an NFL starting running back. He'd be starting for the Denver Broncos today. I'm just being dead honest. He'd be starting for the Denver Broncos. I watch him every week. I talk about him on Altitude every single Monday and Friday. He would be starting for him. So you get that personal connection, and then you start to see that relationship build on, Thursday night, which is tonight. Friday is when the official visit probably actually starts. And, Ashton Jeanty spends time with them, and he spends time with them away from the coaches. And that is the most powerful selling point for a program, are your athletes being around him, because ultimately you're not going to be like, I'm the quarterback coach, or Bush, whoever's the quarterback coach. You're not going to be spending all those lonely hours with Malachi Nelson. That's going to be with his teammates, his roommates. And you even hope that it's a situation where Emac, Talon, they moved out, Ashton got a nice little crib. Hey, that'd be a good little spot to be a roommate with Ashton Jeanty. You guys can be on the same schedule. You can learn what a pro looks like at as a redshirt freshman and moving into a potential starting role at Boise State. I think that's the first thing. The second thing that I think you sell them on isn't just the athlete, but then you break down tape with them.
That's what I was going to ask. You show him tape on the visit.
Show him tape, and you show him the amount of times that this running back did something with what should have been a 3-4 yard gain, which, by the way, is a tremendous feat in and of itself for the offensive line at Boise State to consistently block plays for 3 or 4 yard gains. But how many of those 3-4 yard blocked plays turned into 25, 45 yard rushes by Ashton Jeanty? I mean, the amounts of yards that Ashton Jeanty got after first, second, third contact, mind blowing. And that's what makes him so special. It's not like he runs a 4.29 40, or he, it's spin move and stiff arm. He is the guy that runs through contact consistently and even did it in against UCLA in the LA Bowl. I mean, not obviously as much as we all wanted, but that's exactly what he did against what I thought was one of the best fronts in all of college football at UCLA. I think that it's those two things, that personal connectivity with Ashton Jeanty, with Malachi Nelson, and then really breaking down the film. And then when you break down the film, you hit pause. When Ashton Jeanty has the ball in his hands in that mesh point and he's getting into the line of scrimmage, hit pause.
Okay.
And then show Malachi the amount of space that's available in the second and third levels because of the RPO availability, the ability to throw the ball down the field in the play actions, your deep crossers. I mean, when you have a running game built off a tremendous offensive line. Oh, by the way, Malachi, you're going to be around the best returning offensive line in Group of 5. That'll be
no question.
And also the running back position itself. I mean, you have something special.
I mean, Malachi Nelson gets an upgrade at the running back position if he does come to Boise State. I love USC, and I'm sure they have a bunch of talented future NFL caliber kids. They don't have Ashton Jeanty. That's a selling point. Yes, you're going to come, and this is a grown man offensive line. These guys have played, and they played well. Oh, you want to win? You want to win? Oh, how about 18 starters back? Coach, if Spencer Danielson can get this, he hits this so far out of the park, that ball's not going to land until the spring game, man. Just from a hype standpoint and from a conversation piece, this is going to fire people up. And if it does happen and he does play well, I can't imagine what the prognosticators are going to put on Boise State when they study this team and they outlook the 2024 football season and figure out what Group of 5 teams have a chance to make the inaugural 12-team CFP playoff. They're going to say, well, Boise State has 2 years ago the number 1 overall player, number 1 overall quarterback. Okay, they have the number 1 overall running back. And I mean, they're going to all, and picking them is one thing, getting there is another. I get all that. But I mean, that's going to be a massive preseason talking point that this could be a loaded up version of Boise State to really do something special next season, with or without Malachi Nelson. I get it. I have confidence in Mad Dog too, but this kid comes with a splash and a pedigree. I mean, it was on ESPN.com today that the kid was visiting Boise State.
Oh, it was everywhere. I mean, I don't live in Boise, Idaho, and I'm not on the feeds that you would get if you geographically live in Boise, Idaho. And in Denver, the national pundits and scribes that were reaching out to me,
big time.
It was real. It was absolutely. I mean, you got Pete Thamel covering this, for goodness sakes. I mean, this, no offense to Prater and Caves and Tust and Ball Game, but this is like Pete Thamel and all the national guys. I think you're way better than Pete Thamel. Just my own personal opinion. You're better looking. You have a better beard. But I mean, he probably has a few more followers on Twitter, maybe.
Yeah.
But this is a major national story, Johnny. It really is.
Coach, is there anything else you want to say as a selling point, or just anything this before? Because I do want to talk Michael Penix Jr. We want to talk the Natty. I want to get you to break that sucker down. So let's just go ahead and get that done. Do you have anything else quickly on Malachi Nelson? How big would this be for you? I mean, are you buying it? Or do you have to wait and see where your reservations, a 5-star quarterback possibly coming to Boise State?
I think it's going to happen. I really do. I believe it's going to happen, because if you wouldn't have gotten on that plane, if those kind of weren't your intentions, right? Like,
really?
I'm going to go check out Boise State this week. And then next week I'm going to go to name, top tier Power 5 school. Like, I just think that wherever you go first, it means something. And I think it doesn't just mean something that this is where he wants to go, but it's a different niche than you would typically associate with a guy that was the number 1 recruit in the country a year before. The one thing I do really like about Malachi Nelson is there's not a ton of there's no baggage, right? Like, it's not like he, had a rap sheet coming in. There's no baggage. Like, the only baggage that he has is that he wants to play and play right now. And I love that baggage. Like, that's a really good thing.
He didn't beat out Caleb Williams. And when Caleb Williams decided he didn't want to play, they picked the other guy ahead of him. So he said, I don't think this is my spot. I'm going to the portal. Yeah. I mean,
right now, if you're a betting man and you put wagers on the draft, I mean, right now that Justin Fields wouldn't beat out Caleb Williams. That's the reality, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're at. I think that if there is a downside to all of this, I know you asked me to sell it. I think you were hopefully, I think your stomach was full from the dose of salesman that I gave you in my mic drop.
It was nice.
So, yeah. So, but what I will say, the downside of this is, I mean, Boise State hasn't ever seen an incoming athlete with this type of hype. And what comes with that. And I live in an area that's pretty close to a program that just had a lot of incoming hype, right? In Boulder, Colorado. I mean, it is what it is. And I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the Amazon Prime show, Coach Prime on Prime. Mm-hmm. It's interesting watching kind of just how that all played out with the hype, the eyeballs that were on it all, because first off, one of the greatest, if not the greatest athlete of all time, with probably one of the most electric personalities in sport and history, and Deion Sanders coming to CU, that immediately brought incredible amounts of attention that has never been seen in Boulder. And I think Malachi Nelson coming to Boise State would also bring about incredible amounts of attention that's never been seen in Boise, Idaho, including the win over Oklahoma. Like, that happened as a result of what happened on the field. This would be as a result of a name coming in because of their reputation. I think that the downside of it all is just, it's a challenge to ride that wave. I mean, the expectations and then meeting expectations is always a humongous challenge. And in this case, it's not the expectations solely of preseason rankings and prognostications that you're going to be the no-brainer team that's going to win, the berth to the group of 5 spot in the CFP playoffs with the 12-team expanded slot. I think it's also just the expectations that'll be on a young quarterback. And I think Boise State fans will have expectations. National pundits will have expectations, and I do think that that's something that's going to be something to keep your eyes out. Now, Maddox Madsen's seeing all this, watching that, and he might be in the corner and be like, oh, I'm going to beat this dude out. Right.
Totally. Yeah, or good for him. He should think that way.
Or it could be like, hey man, these guys chose to play me, really start me over Taylon Green. And now all of a sudden they didn't think I was good enough, or I'm getting replaced because I was injured. I might just hit the road and go find a place where I can be the surefire starter as well. Which is, you have to think there's potentially on both sides of that. And so in that case, CJ Tiller's gone, Maddox Madsen's gone. It's similar to the situation in Boulder with Shedeur Sanders. There was only one scholarship quarterback on that roster behind Shedeur Sanders. And that's a real thing. And then all of a sudden,
it's a real thing.
Now the entire, weight of the world is on a redshirt freshman's shoulders that hasn't played meaningful Division I snaps. So there's a lot to ingest here.
I want to go Michael Penix Jr., Washington Huskies, Michigan Wolverines. This is a dream natty for me, Coach. You've been all over Michael Penix since you coached against him last year, and they got your buffs, and then you've scouted him and studied him this year. Coach Sanford on Michael Penix in 90 seconds.
Bronco Nation News is sponsored by Tommy Ahlquist and Ball Ventures Ahlquist, Idaho's premier commercial real estate development company. BVA projects specialize in office, retail, flex, medical, and industrial spaces located at some of the most strategic and visible locations in the valley. Need a developer? Looking for new space? Think BVA. At BVA, we are Idaho's developer. The Nicolason family and SON management have proudly been operating Taco Bell restaurants in and around the Treasure Valley since 1969. One of the first to make a 7-figure donation to the Lyle Smith Society, they've also stepped up their support of Boise State athletics with the Taco Bell men's and women's basketball endowed scholarships. The Nicolason family and SON management have committed at least $310,000 by 2026. Get more information on their financial support of Boise State athletics and find information on applying to work at Taco Bell at TacoBellWorks.com. Lithia Ford of Boise is a proud supporter of Boise State athletics and the official car and truck of the Broncos. Lithia Ford of Boise supports Bronco student athletes through NIL deals, including providing Ford vehicles to Taylon Green and Riley Smith from the football team and Paige Barsh from the volleyball team. Rain's family purchased our F-150 from Lithia Ford. Couldn't be happier with the purchase. Check out the all-electric F-150 Lightning or the electric Mustang Mach-E at Lithia Ford, and make sure to check out their full inventory of vehicles at lithiafordboise.com. The Blue and Orange Store is the perfect spot to get all your gear for your next Bronco game. The Blue and Orange Store has official Nike apparel, including jerseys, shirts, sweatshirts, jackets, hats, and more. Wear what the Broncos wear and get it at the Blue and Orange Store, the second floor of the Boise Town Square Mall, or get free shipping on a $40 order online at theblueandorangestore.com.
Coach, remember when you said following the Washington Husky loss September 2nd, 2023, Boise State up in Montlake, I think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was.
You mind if I jump in here?
No,
it was actually before the game, okay? And then no, it was. You can go pull up the tape. That's the great thing is the eye in the sky don't lie. And I go back and watch the tape. You know that, Johnny. Is that before the game, I said this will be the best team that Boise State has played in a decade.
Yep.
It's played out to be the best team that Boise State has ever played.
Ever.
And
never played a team.
And it was awesome.
CFP.
Like this, my comments that are here on the right side of my screen, they're like, no, what about Georgia? What about, we played Oregon there. I'm like, just watch, man. Just watch. You know why? Because Michael Penix Jr., I've been around the game of college football for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. I've coached against a lot of really good ones. And I also have coached some really good ones, one of which has top 5 stats in the National Football League in most meaningful categories, and that's Jordan Love. And I coached him 4 years ago at Utah State, including Jordan Love. This is the best pro prospect that my own eyes have witnessed since Andrew Luck at Stanford. And I was at Stanford with Andrew Luck. Why? The wow throws, the down the field accuracy, the ability to make the perfect throw, but then also make the throw that just gives his awesome group of receivers a chance to make a 50-50 contested catch. Like when I was watching that game against Texas, first of all, I wasn't surprised. I was just sitting there smiling and just looking over at my wife and saying, I have gone on so many different media outlets and talked about this guy for the last 20 weeks. And now all of a sudden the rest of the world is actually watching him. Like, Hey, Mel Kiper, you didn't have him in your top 5. Now you do. Hey, I'm glad you finally watched him play. I'm glad you watched the CFP. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't think that these people watch film. I don't. They don't watch film.
2 years of it. He did it last year, too. The last quarter
team. And it was ridiculous. And it's not a long release. The ball explodes out of his hand. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, well, he's not a runner. You got Jaden Daniels is a better runner. Why doesn't he run? Because he doesn't have to.
Just shreds you.
But then all of a sudden,
he's protected.
He's protected. He has great receivers. He makes unbelievable throws. You run in college and pro football because you have to at the quarterback position. He didn't have to. But then all of a sudden, they're playing against Texas in a game that's a CFP semifinal. They're up. They're winning. They're outplaying Texas. And then all of a sudden, Ryan Grubb, who I think is one of the best. First of all, Ryan Grubb, Scott Huff, and Kalen DeBoer, that's the best brain trust in college football. And Scott
Huff was a teammate of yours and maybe the best center in Boise State history, right?
Not only that, but also the offensive line coach in 2014, who I think deserves an immense amount of the credit for what Jay Ajayi did in 2014.
Scott Huff.
Scott Huff he's the best offensive line coach in college football. Okay. And it's not close. Why? You texted me and asked that, and I didn't respond to you. Okay. You know why? Because I don't like to do the show before the show. I wanted to tell you right here in real time because this is ball talk. We're talking ball.
Seriously. I love Scooter talk.
Scott Huff he's unbelievably intelligent. He's played the position of center. He knows how to communicate. What I loved about Scooter, my voice is cracked. That's how excited I am.
You love Scooter.
I love Scooter. What I loved about him is as a coordinator, there's a lot of offensive line coaches that I've worked for. When you come up with all these new ideas and you get back in the lab and you start, adding some different elements from the periodic table in there. And then all of a sudden the one bad guy, the one naysayer is the O-line coach. It's like, we can't do that. And I'm like, gosh, you're no fun. Scooter's the guy. It's like, we'll figure that out. And that's who he is. And he's done that time and time again because he's intelligent. He's malleable. He believes in what he believes. He believes in being a physical unit, but he also knows how to coach technique. And the best trait about Scott Huff is that he's an unbelievable person. And those players love him and they love playing for him. When you're an offensive lineman, that's a hard job. That's a thankless job. And when the guy that's the voice that you're listening to on a daily basis is a guy that you really believe in and you want to go to his meetings every day, that's unique in college football, and that's who Scott Huff is.
How cool was it for you? You play with Scott Huff you both are dirt cutter recruits, and you get to know each other. You're a quarterback. He's a center. So you're touching his ass. You guys are hanging out. You're watching tape. There's that center quarterback relationship. And then fast forward like 10 years later, you're the OC. He's the O-line coach at the time. And then you go win a Fiesta Bowl together. When you look at a guy like that, I would imagine that was a long-ass hug at the end of that Fiesta Bowl you guys won together, right? I mean, those are probably the moments that you remember, man.
Well, once again, like this year for me has been the first year where I've actually been able to be a fan, right? Like I haven't been able to be a fan. And dude, like outside of the Boise State Washington game, I have been the biggest Washington Husky fan this year. And it's not just because I love Michael Penix Jr., but it's because I love Scott Huff. I love Lee Marks. I love Julius Brown. Like those dudes are the best of the best, man. And Scott Huff in particular is a guy that I was in the war room with, man. Like there were bullets flying in 2014 after starting 2-2 in the Air Force game. Like that's a dude that I want to be in the trenches with. Like I trust. I would tell him any of my darkest secrets, and that guy will have my back. That's who Scott Huff is, man. So
that's why Caitlin DeBoer kept him. That's probably the easiest decision when DeBoer got that gig, right? Huff, you're staying, right?
To be honest, like I'll just say this right here on air. When I was getting the offensive coordinator job at CU, right as that transition was happening, he was there with Jimmy Lake. He was a Jimmy Lake guy. Like he was a Chris Petersen, Jimmy Lake guy. So of course we had an offensive line job open. I'm sitting there. I talked to Scooter for 2.5 hours just talking to him about CU. And he was in the waiting room of knowing what was going to happen exactly at UW. And I'm like, that's the freaking first guy that I'm calling right there. And there's a reason for it. And as a fan, I watch the Washington games, not just like as a connoisseur of awesome football. I watch them as I'm emotionally invested because of how much I love Scott Huff. And it's really fun.
Yeah, and I mean, the job he's done. I mean, Michael Penix sacked 5 times last year. I think it's 10 or 11 this year. I mean, let's get to this game. I mean, Coach, nobody can touch this kid. He is as well protected as any serious NFL prospect, slinging and dicing quarterback I think I've ever seen. 4,500 yards, 2 straight years. The last guy to do that was some guy named Mahomes.
Who didn't win. He didn't win though.
Couldn't win.
He was a 500. He was sub 500 college quarterback.
One bowl game, I believe, in the Mahomes era there in Lubbock. And Penix does it. You're right. He's 14. He's 25-2 as a starter for Washington. Michael Penix Jr. He was 12-4 at Indiana.
There you go.
There you go. He beat Michigan. You want to talk about tracking down a cephalopoid on foot? That's a quarterback from Indiana beating Michigan. And I don't even give a rip if it was an up or down or a COVID Michigan year, which it was. I don't care. Indiana has no business ever beating Michigan in football. And Michael Penix Jr. beat Michigan with the Indiana Hoosiers.
And Penn State.
He beat Penn State too. Coach, my comp, and I want yours, and I think everybody else wants yours more than mine, but I see a left-handed Dan Marino. He's kind of boxy, he's big, and he just has this super quick release, and it's just darts all over the damn field. I feel like I'm seeing Clayton and Duper and O.J. McDuffie running out there. I get like this weird Dan Marino, I'll call it a sensation, because I love quarterback play, Coach. I dig it. And I see that with Michael Penix Jr. And also, I think if you gave Patrick Mahomes Michael Penix Jr.'s receivers right now, I think the Chiefs might get back to a Super Bowl. I think that's how talented those receivers are right now. But when you see Penix, and people are shredding you in the comments section for comparing him to Andrew Luck, when you see him, what comps do you relate with Michael Penix Jr.?
I actually like that Dan Marino comp because Dan Marino is historically one of the most pure, gifted, wow throwers of our lifetime. It was awesome when my dad was coaching at the Chargers.
You met him?
Well, there was a joint practice between the Dolphins and the Chargers, and I was around training camp every single day.
Hell
And so Marino was late. It was late Marino. And he was he had torn his Achilles multiple times, and his like, I think it was his right foot had like a massive oversized cleat that was custom made because of his Achilles, and then his left had a normal cleat. And I was just like, this guy is old he's old, man. He's sitting there, he's ripping cigs. He wasn't at that point.
Smoking cigarettes on the Dan Marino was one of the biggest badasses of all time.
He smoked cigarettes at halftime. I can't say, in the late 90s, early 2000s, he was ripping.
But in the mid 80s, he was burning one with the Marx Brothers at halftime.
There's no doubt. He was burning American spirits, man, but just at halftime, get no filter. But when I watched him play, I was like, whoa. I've never seen a ball do what it's doing. I think that a good comp is, and people can get crazy all they want in their comments. I didn't say he's better than Andrew Luck. I said he's the most, with my own eyes, and I've seen a lot of really good ones. Mind you, last year, 4 weeks in a row, we played at CU in back-to-back weeks. It went Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, and then it was Cam Rising, who, by the way, that guy's a serial killer in a good way as a quarterback. That dude's a baller.
4 NFL kids. NFL kids you faced, 1, 2, 3, 4, and high-level NFL kids, possibly future starters there, Coach.
And there was one guy that I was like, I've never seen that before. And I've seen that since Andrew Luck, but like, dude, like that ball jumps out of his hand differently. So I think the comp is Dan Marino's a good comp as it relates to just so gifted from here to the fingertip, like just jumps out, explodes, but it's accurate. He makes so many interesting throws. But then I think the moxie, the athleticism, the mobility, it's got a little Steve Young vibe to it too now. So I think
lefty.
Yeah, because mind you, Dan Marino was just he was a pure pocket guy. Penix can be that and is that, but when he needs to be, he can cook now athletically.
30 yards on 3 carries the other night, and they were all massive plays.
Yep.
Massive. Where else was I going on? Okay, so how does Michigan put him on his ass, right? I mean, how does Michigan win this game? Let me start that angle with you. And I love the Jim Harbaugh angle, Michigan, Washington. I mean, me growing up in Seattle, Coach, as a Husky fan, I mean, you wanted it to be in the Rose Bowl, and you wanted it to be against Michigan. That was the epic. Warren Moon did it. Billy Joe Hobart, Mark Brunell did it. I mean, that was the quintessential Rose Bowl for the Huskies, was Michigan. And now they get Michigan in the Natty. It's going to be terrific. How does Michigan find a way to pressure Penix? And if they can't, how do they still end up finding a way to beat him? I mean, Washington hasn't lost since, October of 2022?
My biggest fear as a Washington fan now, right? Because I am a Washington fanboy, is the greatest defense that Michigan can play against Michael Penix, Roma Dunze, McMillan, and Polk, and Dylan Johnson, the running back, and Westover, the tight end, who's a freaking awesome player.
Love him.
The best defense that Michigan and how they're built can play is to get medieval on offense and just hold on to the football and do what Michigan did in overtime against Alabama. It was interesting. Like, you watched 3.5 quarters of that game and you're like, Blake Corum's really not that big a deal, against Alabama. But then all of a sudden it came to real nut cutting time. And as a play caller, when you get to overtime, particularly, I've never been there with a national championship bid on the line. You put the ball in the guy's hands that you really know can win a football game. And that's exactly what Sherrone Moore did, with Blake Corum and the offensive line that Michigan has. I think that Michigan's greatest defense is their offense holding onto the football, making it painstaking, like watching Iowa, Minnesota in November
with Pam Ward on the call, Beth Mowens on the call.
I love Beth. Come on, man.
No. I don't
It's
mind her
not
doing, but
Beth's
she is
fault that Brian Ferentz is calling the plays, man.
no, but she always gets those games, is
I
what I'm
know,
saying.
I know.
Yeah. You know,
But,
it's Minnesota versus Indiana. Beth Mowens on the call. Here we go. You know, that type of deal.
But I think that if they play that style of football, that's going to be the most frustrating thing to this high flying offense that Washington does have. And to be honest, like just taking like be more Big Ten, you know, because this is a Big Ten national championship in 2024. Two Big Ten teams, Washington Huskies of the Big Ten Conference, hailing out of the Midwest, just about another 797 miles west of the furthest Big Ten school in Nebraska. I mean, this is a Big Ten matchup. And, you know, honestly, like if I'm Michigan, my motivation, my tagline, that I'm talking is like, let's out Big Ten this new member of the Big Ten. Let's show them the type of football that we play. And if that happens, and then all of a sudden Washington starts chasing points, I could see this thing getting a little weird and then some turnovers happening. I just think if this thing plays out like strength on strength, I think Washington's better.
Yep. Coach, I just haven't seen anybody. First off, we haven't seen anybody beat Washington. And if there's a team that's well trained and can a team just at some point, you know, when a team wins closely like Washington does, I mean, Washington was a 10-point underdog in its own conference championship game against Oregon.
After they had been underdogs in their own home against Oregon.
Yeah, they penalized them for winning close games.
That's how you win a championship. You win close games. Like that's what they do. And everybody wants to say that Washington's defense isn't very good relative to the national powers.
Okay.
They find a way, man. They find a way. Like even in that crazy, like the Washington's defense should never have had to defend that final drive that Texas had. That was just an unfortunate little quirk of the rules in college football and pro football.
Oh God.
The runoffs built for 2-minute offenses, not 4-minute offenses. Like there's no like advantage to staying on the ground. You know, and then all of a sudden you don't get those extra 40 seconds or 27 seconds to come off the clock. I mean, Texas should have had the ball with 17 seconds on the 18-yard line with no timeouts. Like the game's over.
I was so scared there, man.
Oh, dude, it was brutal,
I couldn't even move. I couldn't believe that was happening. I
was
for
throwing
sure
things. It was bad.
I thought Texas was going to win there. Back to the Bama-Michigan game real quick in overtime. Your boy, Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator for Alabama. What was up with that play call there? I mean, do you have multiple options? Like, I don't know if you've talked to Tommy about it, but you've been in those situations. What the hell happened with that play?
Well, I think it was another situation where games on the line, national championships on the line. Who is your best threat to score, and you want to put it in that guy's hands? And in that case, his best threat to score was the quarterback, Jalen Milroe. However, I do think that giving him the option to have a throw, and I'm not talking about it like they motion out the bubble, and then typically on those motion out bubbles, if nobody runs with him, then you can throw it to him. But who the hell wants to throw a bubble screen on the 3-yard line with the national championship on the line? So you might as well call that bubble completely dead. It was quarterback power. If Jalen Milroe runs it to absolute perfection, slides into the A gap, gets completely square, has patience, follows his guard, and then plays out into the C gap, he would have been greeted at probably the half-yard line. It would have come down to a battle of wills. Instead, Jalen Milroe just literally ran it straight down the center cylinder. And you know, technique-wise, running quarterback power, I would have given him a double minus, on the grade sheet. Double minus.
Is that the worst grade you can get?
At least in my grading system, yeah.
Yeah, the double minus.
Double minus. And then usually if I gave a double minus, it'd usually have a couple choice acronyms. You could probably fill in the blank. But you don't usually grade the final game of your season and hand it. Hey, Jalen, here's your grade on not getting to the national championship. You got a double minus and a big fat WTF and Times New Roman 72. But he didn't run the play very well. I still think even with that, I think he's going to be greeted at about the, I don't know, half yard line. And, the backer from Michigan had a full head of steam, was playing low, was scraping over the top of the pulling guard.
I didn't think this was there.
You got to give him something, a chance to actually like a run with a throw, like a throw in the end zone. And there wasn't.
I mean, I would think you as a play calling OC, don't you have in your head, in your heart, in your gut, Jeremiah Dickey, don't you have like 7 2-point conversion play calls that you are absolutely in love with that you've never called? And when you're taking a shower or driving in your car, you're thinking, God dang, if I ever get in this situation where I have to go for 2 and my life's on the line, essentially, my season's on the line, I'm going to that play. I just don't think you would ever do the shotgun quarterback draw. Do coaches not have that stuff? Do you?
Yeah, I've always built my call sheet with like end of game from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then end of game from the 6 to 10, end of game from the 11 to 15, end of game from the 16 to 20. And to be honest, those are the hardest, Excel cells to populate, because you have to play the game in your mind. Like when you're sitting there in front of your computer on Thursday night and you're going through, you're like, you can just say, okay, I like this. I like this. I like this thing. Or you can be like, okay, I might be in this situation tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Or 2 nights from now. I better get this right. And I've always had that in my call sheet. And I always run it by the offensive line coach, the red zone guy. And, that's stuff that I've always done. But, just because you have that call doesn't mean it's always going to look great. I think the worst part about it is it literally looked like he just ran quarterback draw. It was quarterback power with a potential bubble throw. But, I mean, who the hell's throwing a bubble screen on the freaking – what was it, the 3-yard line?
Yep, 2.5, 3. Isn't that where it is now?
Yeah, throw a bubble screen there. You got the old faithful of Alabama throwing their dentures and hitting Tommy Reese in the box. I mean,
absolutely, especially a first. Anyway, I want to get back to Washington and Michigan. Washington, I see they do this better than anybody in the country. Penix in shotgun. As soon as he gets the ball, he just moves to his left and he just guns it right on the line of scrimmage to a Dunze, Polk, McMillan, whoever. Just the catch and shoot. Boom. We want to put you in space. Nobody knows how to tackle anymore. I want to get Roma Dunze the ball, and all he has to do is make one guy miss. We're going to get you in space. And they do that. Go back and watch the game. 10, 11, 12 times against Texas, just hike the ball, and he just throws it right then, right on the line. And how does Michigan stop that? You play your guys up, and then that opens up the back.
Right.
I mean, now we get into the chess match thing.
Yep. It's defensively for Michigan
because you can't let Penix do that. They just card you up, man. You can't sit back and then you come up and then
For Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator at University of Michigan, he's got to pick his poison. Do you want to take away all the gimmies, and or do you want to play top down? And I thought Texas chose the top down route. They played a lot of soft cover 2 shells, mixed in some 2-man. Disguised a little bit, and Penix and this receiving crew they'll shred you up in the middle of the field in those kind of like wide hole shot zones, 18 to 22 yards past the line of scrimmage by the sideline against cover 2. When you have the corner playing the flats and the safety playing the halves, he can make those throws with just effortlessly. But even like against a soft 2 shell, 2 high safety structure, they still throw the ball over your head. I mean, that happens. And so
I know they take what they want. They don't take what the defense gives them. They take what the frick they want. I love watching them play, Coach.
It's during the game against Washington, like you have little pop-ups in your head that you don't verbalize on the headset because everybody think you're a fanboy as the head coach. But my pop-up in my head is like, all right. In this new era of college football, these frankly, these like simple systems that, like NFL coaches and guys that have been doing this for 30 years that go back to the Bill Walsh tree of the West Coast offense or the Norv Turner, Don Coryell system.
Mouse Davis, run and shoot principles.
These guys would laugh at a lot of these modern college systems because they're so freaking simple. Yeah. And I was watching Washington. I'm like, I love this offense because it's not what everybody's turned to, man. It's
It's
still
what you ran at Boise,
It's
right?
very similar, man. It's very similar. Just with they got supreme athletes doing it, and they do so many different things. And I just feel like Ryan Grubb, and I don't think it's just Ryan Grubb. I think it's a combination of a really good offensive staff. You know, you have Nick Sheridan as the tight end coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Indiana. He's been with Kalen DeBoer at Indiana as well. Ryan Grubb's been the whole way, studied football, gotten better. I think that those guys, when they were at Sioux Falls, Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer, I think they were studying Boise State offensive film. I think they were studying.
You see it?
Oh,
you see the concepts?
I do. I see a lot of the purity, and that's why I think that Scott Huff was such a no-brainer, keeper for them on that staff.
Wow.
You know, I see a lot of the similarities, and let's not get this twisted, right? The Jimmy Lake era at Washington was by all accounts didn't go great, right? I know Jimmy personally. I really like Jimmy as a dude, and I've been fired as a head coach. So I'm not standing here on a soapbox saying that I've done everything right, but it didn't go great. But Jimmy Lake was still a part of the origin of Chris Petersen at Washington, who ended up going to 3 New Year's Six bowl games, a CFP appearance. So Chris Petersen started this at the
2 Pac-12 titles for Coach Pete.
He started this for a program that hadn't done anything since Papa John, or what do you guys call Don James up there?
The Dog Father.
There you go, the Dog Father. I was trying to make him the Papa Johns in Louisville.
The Dog Father.
The Dog Father. This program hasn't done anything consistently since 1990. And Chris Petersen and that staff started it. Bush was a part of it. And they started it. Did it take it took a step back, and they went 4-8 in 2020, right? Or 2021.
Lake's second year. Lake got COVID, which really sucks. Yeah. The cupboard was full too. There was a lot of talent on that team, as you know.
Yep.
And then 21, it got away from them. And I heard some stuff about Jimmy Lake. Just, some guys maybe.
Bottom line is it didn't go great, right?
Yeah.
But this program went from 4-8 in 2021 to winning I'm not going to say winning. I'm not going to jinx it, to being in the national championship 2 years later. That's unheard of.
I know.
But I think it's not solely Kalen DeBoer. It's not solely Michael Penix, and it's not solely this receiving core. I think that the foundation was there, and you insert the piece of Michael Penix Jr. You bring in just a great offensive mind and Kalen DeBoer combined with Ryan Grubb. You keep Scooter. I just think that there's so many things there in place that I think go back to the foundation that was laid by Pete.
And there's so many similarities there. I mean, Kalen DeBoer's record is very similar to Chris Petersen's after their 115, 120 games they've coached. It's like immaculate. They win 90+% of their games, and a lot of those games are close. That's why Washington, I felt, got downgraded this year for playing close games. And, maybe that's fair. I didn't think it was in a lot of cases. Kalen DeBoer was in Fresno 2 years ago. Now he's getting ready for Jim Harbaugh in Houston. It's crazy to think that that's going to be the case. You think they're going to win? I think they're going to win. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be classic. I think America feels like America's getting what they want from this matchup.
This is America's national championship, right? And it's you told me this statistic. I just kind of felt it. My wife, like in particular, she's like, I'm just excited that we're going to watch a national championship that isn't Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, or what was the other one we said?
Ohio State.
Yep. And you told me this, 2014?
The first year.
This is the first year since 2014 that one of those 4 teams haven't played in it?
No, because Ohio State played that year. I think this is the first year since 2014 that no SEC team has been in the final 2. First time, I believe that was the case. And 2014 was Oregon, Ohio State. Here we go, Washington. And I'll tell you this, for Washington to get to the CFP twice in this 10-team era, when only 3 Pac-12 teams made it, 2 of them were Washington. Your USC Trojans, they never went to this thing. UCLA, no, those teams went to any of this thing. Utah, as good as they've been, no. It's Washington went twice and Oregon went once. I think that says a lot about the power of Washington. And your boy, PJ Fleck, and all these dudes who are coaching high-level Big Ten teams like Kirk Ferentz or James Franklin, they better watch out. Because
right.
Washington and Oregon going to that Big Ten next year, Washington's not going away. Hell, I think they might keep Grubb. He's still there. I haven't heard anything. I think Grubb might come back for $2.3 million a year. Washington will pay. They want him back. But the point I'm saying is all those teams, those mid-level Big Ten teams now, you're going down a step. And another step, because I don't think Washington and Oregon and USC are going to come into those leagues and be behind those teams that I referenced. I mean, I would imagine a lot of those Big Ten teams are like, why are we letting these teams in?
I think the two LA teams are in for a very rude awakening in the Big Ten.
Washington and Oregon have been clearly better programs than the LA schools in the CFP era. Period.
And not only better, but they've built themselves on toughness, on winning the trenches. I think UCLA has attempted to do that. I think Chip Kelly's built that thing to try to become a physical outfit, and they are. But they just don't. I don't think they don't score enough. They don't have a dynamic enough offense. They haven't had a legitimate trigger puller since Chip Kelly's been at UCLA, and I don't think that they're going to out recruit anybody in the Big Ten at the high level. I think SC's been finesse. I guess the bottom line, they're finesse outfit. And I think the offensive style that they play with, it breeds a very soft defense. And I don't think it's this because you practice against your offense. 90% of your reps that you take in live football are against your own team. There's scrimmage reps in fall camp and spring ball. And I think that breeds a certain type of physicality. I think that what Dan Lanning's done at Oregon, phenomenal, physical.
Right.
He'll punch you in the freaking mouth.
That was a hell of a hire.
Washington, unbelievable line play, particularly on the offensive line. You know, their defense does enough. They fit stuff. You know, people have to earn it against their defense. There's not just guys running around. You get 7-yard gains, you know, on their rush defense. But, you know, it's not just a leaky sieve, that Washington defense. I think that those two teams are positioned to have really good success. And then I think a lot of the Big Ten is going to be in trouble. Even with like SC, they catch a hot hand. They scored 50. Yeah, nobody's really seen that outside of Ohio State in the Big Ten. You know, when Ohio State was really loaded, or, you know, I think UCLA. I mean,
it's been the big two, you know? Yeah. I mean, those two teams have dominated that league. I mean, Penn State is so fraudulent for me. Yeah, they beat everybody except those two teams.
I wanted to jump on the bandwagon this year. You're right.
God. And then they get to go to New Year's Six bowl games every year because they're 10-2, but they didn't win any of the games they needed to. Yeah. Those teams are going to be scratching their heads saying, wait, we let these teams in our league? Holy smokes, they're better programs than us. It's so sad about the Pac-12 that didn't happen and they couldn't have fixed that. But
Johnny ball game. All right. Final episode here, man. We had a really highly competitive, very spirited competition sponsored by Circa in Las Vegas. The Pick Six. You won.
I did.
And the original wager was you win. I send you a game-worn Boise State Sanford throwback jersey. And so I bring choices for you because you won. If I won, you were going to send me a I don't know, a San Francisco
I was going to
Giants.
buy you the jersey of your choice for the San Francisco Giants.
You won.
Which would have been? Who would you have picked?
That's not a good.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
We're good. We're good. Let's move past the Giants right now. I don't want to get in a bad mood. All right. I'm having too much fun talking ball. All right. So here are the options I got. Okay. So we have the 2003 Plains Capital Fort Worth Bowl. You can see the logo right there.
Lovely.
Okay. The number 2 got the whack patch right there.
I like that old whack patch, man.
We got the 2004 AutoZone Liberty, the same exact jersey that was worn in the 2006 Fiesta Bowl.
Beautiful.
And then we got the real throwback here.
What is this?
Russell Athletic Humanitarian Bowl 6 right there. You can see it.
Russell Athletic.
You can see the logo right there. The Russell tag. That was the first year I was in too.
So you're born to wear number 2.
My dad wore it at SC.
He did.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I wore it.
Now, did he play for McKay?
Played for John McKay, and then won a national championship under John McKay, and then played for John Robinson, and then GA'd for John Robinson. He played from 73 to 76.
Your dad did? Okay.
GA'd in 77 and 78 before getting his first job as a military. He was a enlisted active duty military coach at West Point, where my sister was born at Army General Hospital.
Your dad was a coach at West Point?
Yeah, that was his first coaching job. Full-time.
Wow, there's some history there, man.
And then his next
been everywhere, man.
So
have you. Like collectively, like you guys are related to everybody. Yeah, I love it. Which hey, I'm trying to maybe ask the viewers which jersey I should take. I think right now, Coach, I like the white Liberty Bowl. I hope that wasn't your favorite.
No, man. Hey, a bet is a bet. You know,
that's mine, and I'm going to frame that.
Look at that, man. And you can even kind of fold it over so that the
you know, man, I will
right there. You know what I mean?
I know how to fold jerseys over and make them. Hey, will you give me a little personalized message on the 2 or wherever? Or
I'll put it up here on the because I think you can write pretty well in this material. Probably right. Yeah, I'll do it right there.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll send it over to you. You can give me your address, or maybe I hand deliver it to you here.
Maybe we'll wait. Yeah. No rush. I'd like to see you in person on that. Okay, so you played at Los Alamitos High School, right? Los Al, same school as Malachi Nelson, who I believe lands in Boise in about 45 minutes. Wonder if anybody's shooting down to the airport for that. But you played. I mean, did you? I thought you played
anymore, man.
Didn't you play at South Bend?
I tried it on. It doesn't fit.
It doesn't.
Yeah, human growth hormones, man. I Barry Bonds this son.
You are a Barry Bonds fan, so that maybe that explains a little, Mr. Barry Bonds fan right there. Dude, like, how did you? Dirk Cutter, Mark Helfrich, recruited you for on the last episode of Ball Talk for the season here. How did you become a Bronco? You speak so well of this program. It changed you in so many ways. It put you on this path where you were able to make your own path. You kind of got away. You got to get out of Dad's shadow for a second, and learn different football here in Boise and build your own legacy, if you will, not just be Big Mike Sanford's kid anymore. What was the recruiting process like? What BSU program did you sign up for? Dirk Cutter, Mark Helfrich? Give us the story, man.
Well, because my dad he was at USC my freshman year. So second grade through freshman year, I was in the Los Alamitos school district where obviously Malachi Nelson went to high school. And then he got hired at Notre Dame my sophomore and junior year. I played high school football in Mishawaka, Indiana at Penn High School. And, frankly, we ran the ball all but 2 or 3 plays a game. So I didn't really play, and put tape together that could get recruited as a quarterback. So then my dad got hired at the Chargers when they were in San Diego, and he decided we kept our house when we went to South Bend. And so we decided to move back into my house in North Orange County, and my dad commuted down to San Diego. So I had a year, which was really my senior year, was my first year as a true starting quarterback. And, it started off okay. And as the year went on, it got better and better. And then I had a really good end of the year, and then playoffs. I, played against some of the powers in Southern California. Thanks, Nathaniel Wilder. He just thinks I've gotten a big head. I think I've been humble and self-deprecating throughout it all, but that's okay. But I went, so I didn't have any scholarship offers going into my senior year. And so my dad made an old VHS tape. My dad got together with the guy that filmed our games at Los Alamitos and put together a VHS tape and sent it out to, mailed it himself. And he's coaching the NFL at the time. He mailed it out to a lot of people that he knew in the industry. Well, my dad knew Dirk Cutter. My dad had coached at Long Beach. Well, so my dad coached at Long Beach State in the mid 80s, and Dirk Cutter coached at Idaho State. And between those two programs, Marvin Lewis was kind of the big connection. Old Cincinnati Bengals head coach Marvin Lewis had been the defensive coordinator at Long Beach State and had been the defensive coordinator at ISU. And Dirk was kind of a common friend of both of them. So my dad knew Dirk for a long time. You know, he sent it to a bunch of places. I got a few offers. I think my first ever scholarship offer was from the University of Idaho, the Vandals. That was my first offer. And I got Nevada, I got Fresno State.
Smart.
I got Utah, and this is a different, time period. This is WAC and, Big West and, all the stuff.
But those are still pretty good schools that are giving you looks, man. Wow, you must have been a pretty good damn player.
Yeah, it just came together late for me. I was a late bloomer. That's why I always tell people, listeners right now. I mean, if you have a son, that's has no scholarship offers their sophomore, junior year, just continue down the path. It can still work out. Like college coaches are always recruiting and evaluating. And so Boise State, in 1999, I didn't know much about the program. But I'll never forget, I got a scholarship offer on the phone from Dirk Cutter. I didn't know who Dirk Cutter was. My dad did. My dad just like, this guy's an offensive, he's unbelievable.
He said that to you?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I talked to him on the phone. I was, obviously like really excited. I didn't know anything about Idaho. I'd never been there in my life. And then I think what really connected me to Boise State was my area recruiter did a home visit with my family, and it was Jeff Grimes. And Jeff Grimes, who's now the new offensive coordinator and a really good friend that I talk to on a regular basis, even talked to him 4 days ago. He's now the new offensive coordinator at Kansas. Jeff Grimes, the O-line coach, but he was the area recruiter. He did a home visit, talked about the culture of Boise State football, and talked about, that it's not just about winning games. It's about developing people. And it's about, returning your son, talking to my mom and dad, in a better place than when we recruited him. And that regardless of who the coaches are, Boise State has continued to do that for a long period of time. Now, the crazy thing is that, Dirk had only been there, I think 2 or 3 seasons before I went there in 99.
Yeah. His first year was 98. So yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that did it for me was going there. When I got to Boise on my official visit, my mind was blown. I took official visit to Utah State. That was my first official visit. And then my next official visit was Boise State. And I had Utah, possibly UNLV, and possibly Fresno afterwards. And after I went up to Boise, I saw in 1999, population was like 75,000 in Boise in 1999.
Gosh.
I saw, because I'd moved around the whole country, I saw a town, a program, a stadium that just had major, like, wow, growth potential written all over it. And I was a 17-year-old kid, but because I'd had so much world experience, I was like, this place is going to explode.
You saw a bunch of programs before that growing up. Yeah.
Yep. Totally. And I was just blown away. I thought it was going to be small. Like, I remember the stadium, it looked like it was the original stadium that was it was basically a horseshoe that stopped. But I remember the cement pillars of the top of it. I'm like, this is good. It's a big time stadium. The blue turf was like, whoa, I've never seen it like that in my life. But it was more about the people, being around the players. Players took me downtown, 6th and Main at the time, had a good time, So, I was a Southern California guy, interested in fine looking young ladies. And, I was like, Boise's got
the Sandman.
But I just had a great trip, man. I just had a great trip and just fell in love with the program.
What was it like playing for, when you get there? I mean, Bart's there. Ryan Dinwiddie is there. They're in this competition. Not really. Bart was the guy. I think Nate Sparks was long gone by then.
Nate had played the year before. Like as I was being recruited, Nate had shared a little time with Bart.
Yep. So he was gone. And just being in the Mark Helfrich, Dirk Cutter. Wow. What an experience for you, huh? And you knew you wanted to be a coach. That just stamped it. Coming to Boise State, you were like, okay, I'm going to do football forever.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, like my first quarterback meeting, where they installed the plays at, when I got there for training camp in the summer. It was Ryan Dinwiddie, it was BJ Rohde, it was Bart Hendricks, and me and Josh.
That's the room.
Yeah,
man. How did anything get done?
Oh man, it was awesome.
Helfrich was your coach.
Yeah, Helfrich, but it was funny. Helfrich was like 26, 28 years old. And so it was almost like Dirk came in to babysit all of us because Helfie's got the greatest sense of humor. He's so smart, but he's so hilarious and sarcastic.
Really?
BJ Rohde, incredibly sarcastic.
Love BJ.
Bart just sat there and laughed at all of us. And like, he's just such a great guy to be around. And then Dinwiddie just kind of shot the wolf eyes at you, and you're just like.
Probably had a dip in.
Massive,
I bet RD was a chewer. I bet he was a dipper.
Massive lip buster in at all times, even when he practiced. I think
RD practiced with a dip in.
Oh yeah, there'd be times like they'd be like all up in his teeth. I'm like,
that's so RD, man. Like just a riverboat kind of
baller, man.
Freaking assassin, man.
He
kind of reminds me of Jim McMahon a little bit, like personality wise.
Oh yeah,
RD does. Like McMahon he'd have a dip in the NFL games.
Oh yeah. I mean, Dan Marino's ripping butts, man, at halftime. So there were plenty of them back in the day. But there were so many memories. Like my first quarterback meeting, I'll never forget. We just installation of a really simple concept with a 3-by-1 concept where stick was installed on the front side. So 6-yard stick route by the tight end, an arrow route or a flat route by either the extra tight end or the running back, the fullback. And then a protection release. We called it a P9 back in the day, a protection release 9 route.
What's protection release mean?
It means that you mandatory outside release. So you have to turn the corner to make sure that even if it's cover 2 and he's reading the flat, that you get a little bit of expansion out of him. So if you go inside, his eyes go inside and he could blow up the flat route. So a protection release is like through his outside shoulder and actually rub his outside shoulder. And then the backside was a single receiver and you had an individual route which was a quick hitch or a quick out. And this is a concept that everybody runs today. I mean, it's a simple concept. It's a 3-by-1 stick concept. So they installed it. And then all of a sudden I remember Helfie erases the board and asks me to jump on the board and teach the concept back to the room of quarterbacks. So I go up there and I draw it up. Right. And I'm myself.
How was your board work? Pretty good.
Yeah, my circles weren't great, but my banter was elite, as you can imagine. So I'm sitting there drawing it up. I'm like, okay, here's the stick concept. And I'm like, the number one thing that you got to look at is, can I work with the backside? And I said, if I have the opportunity, I'm the kind of guy that likes to work the backside. And the room just exploded with laughter because I said, I'm the kind of guy that likes to work the backside. And that was my introduction to that quarterback room. So
that must have been a hell of a run. I love the fact that Dirk would pop in to babysit.
It was real, man. Dude, Helfrich, man, he's so fun. Such a fun guy to be around. And Dirk was rough on me, man. He was how so? High standard, very black and white. He has a great personality, but man, you step in between the lines on the field, you do something stupid, you take the wrong drop, you have bad footwork, your eyes are in the wrong spot. I mean,
he'll give it to you.
It was old school, hardcore awesomeness. And it's funny because I've done a lot of clinic talks over the years about influences in my coaching career. Yeah. And it's, obviously the first influence was my dad. And I always learned from my dad, just like how to treat people. And I learned from Dirk that the game's black and white and there's got to be a level of black and white. And that's what Dirk taught me. And then Helfrich hit the word that I always used to describe Mark Helfrich was cerebral. And then the word I used for Chris Petersen, my next quarterback coach and offensive coordinator, was unattainable standard. It was like, no matter what I did, no matter how much attention I paid to detail, I always felt like I couldn't ever meet the standard that Coach Pete had for me or for the quarterback room. But you loved him so much, you kept striving for that standard. And he's, to this day, I think he's the greatest coach that I've been around.
Chris Petersen.
Yep.
Did you know that kind of at the time how
No idea.
smart and how gifted he was? Were you like calling your dad saying, dude, he's got these concepts, this rub route against a freaking cover 2 zone, whatever that is works every time, and I've never seen anybody else run that. It felt like, because that's my introduction to Boise State. Holy shit, these guys just look different.
Yeah.
They do trick plays, they run around, they run stuff that I don't think there's motion on every single play. Just about, like, they don't stop. They're constantly moving, and they lead the nation in scoring. I think you led the nation in scoring like every year you played. 3 of the years, 4 years,
pretty much.
Number 1 in scoring. Like, like you said, you were with Chris Petersen every single day. He was your quarterback coach and your offensive coordinator in that room. And you guys really know, you knew at that time, huh? Like, what was it about him?
It was that, man. It was that standard. And it's funny because I would call my dad out of frustration, man, to be honest, because there was times where I was like, dude, I can't reach this guy's standard. And it was my second year all the way till my 5th year of college that I felt that way. And I remember the first couple of times I called him, my dad knew Pete. And the funny thing is that my dad's connection to Pete was through Paul Hackett. Yeah. And Paul Hackett was my dad's boss at USC. He was the offensive coordinator, and my dad was his graduate assistant back in the 70s. And then fast forward, Chris Petersen in the 90s worked at Pittsburgh, and he was like I don't know if he was a GA, but he wasn't the coordinator. It was Paul Hackett was I think he was the head coach there, and that's where Pete learned, and my dad learned it. When my dad was a GA, Paul Hackett would just absolutely just grind him to the smithereens about every detail and how he drew up the playbook and how everything in the office was located and reshape my furniture. Pete was trained by the same guy, and so my dad, like, I remember I was complaining, like, Dad, like, Pete didn't like the whole day, like, just gave me a minus because my punch step was 4 inches instead of 2 inches. And my dad just listened, and then he started laughing. I'm like, why are you laughing? It's like, that's Paul Hackett, man. That's how Paul Hackett was. It was the exact same way.
Did you grow up with Nathaniel Hackett? He's about our age. Paul Hackett's kid, of course. Everybody knows Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, how you know that dude? Yeah,
my parents know him better. I was okay. I was a glimmer in my parents' eye at the time. But they know him from like the early days.
So. But I mean, just God, how fortunate you were to get coached up by Coach Pete every single day when he was coming up. And I mean, you really were lucky. I mean, you were a part of a massively special deal. I mean, it was kind of like what Gonzaga did in basketball, just came out of nowhere. I mean, I think Boise State Chris Petersen had 5 years where at some point in the season, Boise State was ranked in the top 5. When I think about it now, they're right. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
Top 5.
Yep.
And now, I mean, they have been ranked for a couple of years. I don't know if they can ever get back in the top 5 again. It's okay if they don't. It's a different scheme and system and landscape now, but just how special this program was.
I think Pete's greatest attribute as a head coach, and I knew it as a player in his quarterback room. I'll be honest, like, did I like Coach Pete every day for 4 years? Hell no. I didn't like him, but did I respect him? You bet. Did I strive to gain his approval? You bet. And that's how I think as a head coach, he was respected by everybody in that building.
Wow.
Because he treated people well. He was consistent in how he treated people. The standard was the standard, and the standard never changed. And you knew the standard both in your off the field antics and your on the field detail work. Chris Petersen, like, there's nobody that I've ever met in the industry that's like, I don't respect Chris Petersen. And that's what I think made.
And you coaches talk massive amounts of shit about each other to other coaches.
Oh, I'm sure. It's a natural pastime in the industry.
Yeah, and Chris Petersen, no, never in that situation. Yep. And yeah, what a beautiful time that was, man. And really, really lucky to build that program the way you guys did, and so much fun, man. It's been a fun season. We went 35 minutes over schedule, but we didn't give a shit tonight. I wanted to finish strong. And
Yeah,
what's
I
up
had a
with the
couple- I had a
Western
couple-
Cowboys?
Yeah, so I
What's
had a
up?
couple comments here, like, why am I not
Yeah.
rocking Boise State swag? A couple people said I looked like a lumberjack or that I was getting ready to. So today, I actually took my kids. Today's the first day in Denver of the National Western Stock Show. So I took my kids. They did a cattle run through downtown Denver today. 30 Longhorns through downtown Denver. So we went down to the parade, and then this hat. I am representing Boise. This is from Western Collective, which I visited in my trip during the New Mexico week. And Western Collective out there, I think it's in Garden City. And
Joe Nickel.
Yeah, so I'm rocking the Western Cowboy gear right now. There we are.
I love it, man. I love it. Great stuff, Coach. Great stuff. I don't know. I think we're just gonna end it like this, and hopefully we're back for a season 2.
Yeah, BJ will have us. I don't know if he will. He's been pretty tough on the negotiations.
Yeah,
he's trying to change my rate from free to bucko free,
and he's trying to keep my rate the same when this has clearly been his most successful, piece of BNN in football season. So we got to go to the negotiation board, and hopefully we can get this going.
Yeah, we'll get our attorneys involved. We'll be good. We'll be good.
Hopefully maybe a spring edition when spring football kicks off, and maybe even an emergency episode of Ball Talk if this Malachi Nelson kid ends up signing with the program.
Yeah, well, I'll be ready, man. I'll be ready with my Griffin attire somewhere around here.
Same high school. If you're just joining us, Mike Sanford Jr. went to the same high school, Los Alamitos, as Malachi Nelson, and they both wore number 2 at that school. If that's not an omen, and the jersey is blue and orange, the same.
Blue and red. Oh,
that looks kind of orange on.
No, it's pure red. Yeah,
okay.
I don't want any misinformation spread. I mean, you can see it right there, right? You can see that red face mask right there, the Griffins right there, the Los Alamitos Griffins. What a
Coach, did it ever piss you off with young quarterbacks when you get a smart DC and the smart DC knows how to show a look that gets the young quarterback to audible out of it every single time? And he audibles out of it, and the audible that he calls plays right in to what that smart defensive coordinator was trying to get the kid to do.
Yeah, that happened more for me in practice. And it's because a lot of these quote unquote smart DCs, they're also big time script peekers. They always peek at the script before practice. And they're like,
I want to know what plays are coming.
Oh, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, hey, good job, man. You're not going to have the script when you play in the opening game against freaking whoever. Good luck, bud. So, hey, great job. You held the pencil last on the script. Really proud of you.
So what is it like on a game day? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to get pre-snap. Well,
if your quarterback can't handle it, like a young quarterback, if your quarterback can't handle it, then you handle it, right? That's what all we went through on Ball Talk. I think it was episode 3. All the different ways of checking plays at the line of scrimmage. We talked about the air raid is signaling route concepts. A lot of the RPO systems that are in vogue, or the fake cadence, and then everybody looks at the sideline. That's what you do if you're quarterback. You don't want to overburden your quarterback at the line of scrimmage. And then the NFL, man. I mean, majority of the NFL, you hear all the variety of cadence. I love that the NFL now is a first-time real watcher of the National Football League in my lifetime. I love how they have that camera or that boom microphone right at the line of scrimmage, and you can hear it all.
You know what's coming most of the
time?
Well,
I don't know what play's coming, but I know what kind of modifications are happening.
The protection. If the protection changes.
Yeah, some protection, but a lot of it's also just getting out of. They use everybody kind of in the West Coast offense now use we're good. That means the first play call in the huddles we're rolling with. So you don't know that play call. And then the second one is we can go to this play. Then you always see the, hey, can. That's they're going to the second play. And then the third one is a lot of times an alert, or, people use different terms for it. So the defense and even the viewers don't know what was called in the huddle, but you do know that, okay, that quarterback changed something because of that look.
I know you hate doing this, but who was the smartest starting quarterback that you ever had in your coaching
Andrew
career?
freaking Luck. Andrew freaking Luck. Super computer.
Were
man.
you Andrew Luck's OC?
I wasn't.
Coach?
No, I wasn't. I was actually
running back coach.
I was the running back coach when Andrew was finishing up at Stanford. But before that, I was on Harbaugh's staff. Harbaugh didn't hire a full-time quarterback coach. So Harbaugh was the head coach and quarterback coach. And then obviously in the role of head coach, it's challenging to be an everyday quarterback coach. So I was a quality control or offensive assistant, and I was with the quarterback. So that was when Andrew was recruited. So I was a part of his.
Pritchard?
He played for me, too.
I'm trying to think of quarterbacks before Luck at Stanford.
Well, and then after Luck was Kevin Hogan, who was really bright, really bright. And I was the quarterback receiver coach and pass game coordinator. And actually Kevin Hogan ended up being the all-time winningest quarterback at Stanford. He ended up, I think
Luck set some things up and Luck didn't come back. He left after his junior year.
But Hogan won. I think Hogan went to 3 Rose Bowls, won 3 Pac-12 championships.
Yep. We forget about Andrew Luck. I mean, right now, coach, he's the same draft class as Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins. So he'd be on their trajectory.
Right.
He'd be at that level of his career. I miss him. Like, I loved Andrew Luck coming out. Remember when he drilled, was it a Duck or USC where he drilled some dude like a linebacker?
Yeah, he threw a pick and then he just like obliterated the guy covering the interception. It was unbelievable.
You guys like Stanford, you guys were the tough guys. It was weird.
Oh, yeah.
One time I remember in college football.
And that's all Harbaugh, man. That's all
the nerdy
Harbaugh.
Kids were, you guys were the tough guys.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
That was Harbaugh.
Okay. All right. God, I love it, man. So yeah, Andrew freaking Luck. I forget sometimes about the guys that you've had in the building there. That must have been, did you always know you guys were going to get Luck? Where else was he looking at? Do you remember when you signed him?
It was Texas. He was from Texas. I think it was Texas. It was A&M. It was Alabama. But once we talked with him and spoke to him, and then once we saw him on Stanford's campus, he's like on a different level of intellectual than not just every football player that I've ever been around, but every human I've been around. I'm like,
Andrew Luck.
He's coming here.
It's impressive.
He was like a 35 ACT or 34 or something like that. I mean, almost a perfect ACT. It's absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
and that's probably the type of guy that realizes when to get out and to get out a little early.
Yeah. So from the comment section, they're live streaming a Los Alamitos Griffin at the airport. I didn't get that same treatment. There wasn't even live streaming, let alone phones on cameras back in 2009, nor would anybody have cared if I had gotten to the airport and at the BOI. Well, hey, man.
We should probably end it. Apparently, they're live streaming him at the airport. It's on Twitter. Everybody can go check that out. We appreciate season 1, episode 18 of Ball Talk. Not sure when and if we're coming back, but stay tuned, man. Well done, Coach.
Hey, it was an awesome time, man.
Best part about this show is the lovey-dovey friendship formed by you and me.
Amen,
Easily.
brother. Amen.
Easily. You know, the texting back and forth. I love it during football season. You're one of my go-tos on just life, texting, fun. I mean, it's been great, man. So I'm sure I'll text you later on tonight or something.
It's just the beginning, brother.
Well done, man. Good stuff. Appreciate everybody for viewing us Ball Talk on BNN.